Joining me now from our bureau in Washington, D.C., constitutional attorney and Associate Deputy Attorney General under President Reagan, Bruce Fein. Bruce, I do not take what Attorney General Barr said at face value, and I'll tell you why. I think there's something coming here that the Attorney General was setting up. This is almost a good cop, bad cop situation. I think it's important what he said in the interview, that he needs to reestablish, if you will, an independent Department of Justice. If you read between the lines, that's effectively what he was saying. But why? Why would he say that now? Well, here's my theory, Bruce, and I want to hear your opinion on it. And that is, we know what's coming out of the DOJ. It could be a matter of days, weeks, not sure, maybe months. The Durham report. And I think that William Barr is laying or reestablishing, if you will, a foundation that the Department of Justice is doing its own thing on behalf of the American people, independent of the White House, for this foundation of what is to come, which is the Durham report.
Well, the Durham report is there because Mr. Barr was the one who selected Mr. Durham to run this investigation. I knew William Barr when he was in the White House office under Reagan administration. I don't think he's someone who plays with ulterior motives. I do think what he's suggesting is a reality out there. He has to deal with judges every day, and Mr. Trump does not. And the ability of the United States Department of Justice to influence judges means they have to come forward at least with the appearance of impartiality. And Mr. Trump's statements, unfortunately, are coloring that possibility. There's nothing, of course, in the Constitution that makes the department independent. It's not. It's subject to the president. There's nothing in the Constitution that would have forbidden Mr. Trump from pardoning Mr. Stone even before he was prosecuted. Because remember, Mr. Stone was prosecuted only because Mr. Trump decided, okay, he'd let the movement go forward. And I think what we are seeing from Mr. Barr is a plea, listen, I have to interact with judges every day. When you in the White House attack a judge, how do you think that's going to enable the department to move forward and have influence with that judge? I don't think that, in fact, when the Durham report comes forward, it will need any extra leverage from Mr. Barr or Mr. Trump. It will speak for itself.
Well, but you know, Bruce, is going to be attacked ruthlessly by the Democrats and the mainstream media. And a lot of people don't even realize what you just pointed out, is that the DOJ, there's no mention of the DOJ, Department of Justice, or the Attorney General in the United States Constitution. But let's back up a little bit, shall we? And look at the Roger Stone situation, which precipitated this most recent angst on Capitol Hill. Roger Stone is a victim, if you will, of the Mueller probe and the Mueller prosecutors. And it appears to me, Bruce, that these prosecutors wanted to send a message to someone or some people, maybe Roger Stone and beyond in the administration, I don't know. But they found some sort of loophole in the sentencing guidelines and went pedal to the metal with the 7 to 9 year recommendation, which is outrageous. Outrageous given the circumstances, given the facts of the case. That Roger Stone, you know, one of them is witness tampering, which was almost a joke. I mean, it was a literal joke. Part of what Roger Stone and the witnesses' testimony was that they didn't even take it seriously. Yet here we have this conviction. And so I think there's every right for the White House on down to question the sentencing recommendation.
Yes, I believe, if you believe the newspaper reports, which you can't always, and what Mr. Barr stated yesterday, he was already in the process of lowering that recommendation to a couple of years at most before Mr. Trump tweeted. So there was an internal review process that was at work following the guidance that you've just articulated, suggesting this is overkill. The obstruction or the intimidation of a witness was with regard to a witness who says, I wasn't intimidated.
Right.
Now, it's true there are charges of misleading or lying to Congress, but it's unfortunate that happens virtually every day in the United States in testimony from the executive branch or otherwise. It doesn't result in criminal indictments. But I think what has happened is when you have special prosecutors, independent counsels, they feel that they haven't done their dollar's worth of work unless they can come up with indictments of some marquee names. And so there's an overzealousness that isn't necessarily true with the ordinary professional at the Department of Justice. And I think Mr. Stone exemplifies that feature.
Yeah, they want to justify their existence. Well, their existence is gone. This is, I think, the last major case, anyway, that's born of the Mueller probe. But it's not unprecedented, is it, for the White House to inject itself into court cases? We saw the previous president, Barack Obama, do it in 2013 and 2015. There are documented cases. 2009, remember the Cambridge police case where the president said the police officers acted stupidly. That was an active investigation. But I want to take you in the Wayback Machine, Bruce, back to the time when Edwin Meese was your boss. Weren't there times when Ed Meese, who probably one of the greatest attorney generals of our time, weren't there times when Edwin Meese felt he had to inject himself into certain cases?
Well, it's certainly true. In fact, after there was, this is earlier on, in 1976, when the U.S. Attorney in Philadelphia was, without notice to the department, was investigating then President Ford for alleged campaign violation, which is a congressman, there was intercession because this was thought highly improper and detrimental in the primary campaigns. But I can go back and I know for a fact that in the Jimmy Carter administration, there was a very controversial case concerned Bakke. It was affirmative action quotas and that kind of thing. And the White House specifically interceded with the Solicitor General of the United States and said, no, you're not and cannot support Alan Bakke, who was against the quotas. You had to flip. And that was done. That was directly from Jimmy Carter, and Walter Mondale's office forced the flip from Wade McCree, who was the black Solicitor General at the time. It isn't something that happens every day, but after all, as you point out, the Department of Justice is part of the executive branch. Right. It is subject to the President of the United States. It wasn't even created till 1870, and it's not independent and run off on its own. The President is entitled to supervise it. He's politically accountable for it. And Mr. Barr knew what he was getting into when he accepted the position. Yeah.
And again, we have this pending looming Durham report out there, which could have and create a lot of shockwaves through Washington, D.C., as it should. As it should. As for Roger Stone, I believe he's a political scapegoat, not unlike Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, an unfortunate piece of fallout from the Mueller probe and the attempt to attack the 45th president ruthlessly. And I think in the end, what's going to happen here is Roger Stone's team's going to appeal this case, and the day after the election, the President of the United States is going to give him a pardon, as he should. Bruce, thank you.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One American News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One American News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.